Hello, Nick Jones here from the Lakeside Fitness Studio. Today we are doing our first in the Office Workers series to do with correcting lower back pain. So anyone, I have branded it as office worker, but anyone who does a lot of sitting for a long period of time, what you're going to find is your glutes are switching off, your hamstrings and your lower back becomes then very active, and then so what happens is when you go through day-to-day life, your lower back is doing all the heavy lifting without any help from the glutes because they've kind of gone tight and they've switched off. Okay. Also, another thing that can cause the lower back pain if you're an office worker or do a lot of driving or whatever is also the posture from the top is throwing your lower back out, like I discussed in the upper back routine. Okay, so we're just going to try and correct that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch off the front of the legs because these get very tight in this seated kind of position. We're going to stretch the glutes, we're going to activate the glutes, and we're going to stretch the back. Let's get to it. So our first stretch is going to be child's pose. We're going to start on our hands and knees. Hands up nice and high and together. Feet together, knees apart, then sink back towards your ankles, okay? So what this is going to do is going to help stretch out the lower back a little bit, but it's also going to be a really good chest opening stretch. It's going to stretch out the lats, which is one of the main contributing muscles to this kind of rounded posture up at the top. Okay, so like I said, we are going to touch on that upper back posture in this routine. It's just a short routine that hopefully you could do in not very long when you come back from work or whenever you can in the week, and help to try and help rebalance sitting down for 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours a day or whatever you're doing. So you should feel a nice stretch through the hips, a little bit of a release in the lower back by the SI joint where the spine meets the pelvis, and then a bit of a chest opening feeling of where it should be opening up those shoulders. Next up, we're going to activate the glutes. Okay, you can add a band on this, have it around your thighs just above your knees, but apart from that, hands and knees, and you're just going to abduct one leg out to the side, straight out to the side. They call this hydrant, as I'm sure you can imagine why. And what this is going to do is going to wake up a muscle group, the muscle group kind of glute med and min, which sit on the outside of your hip, which are a muscle that really doesn't get worked that much in modern day living. And making sure that's active and firing is super important when it comes to having a healthy back. And hips. And knees. And like I said, modern day living, it can just learn to switch off. You know, we sit down in the car to drive to work, we go to work, sit down at work, sit down in the car to drive back from work, sit down to have lunch as well, you know, so it's just, and then we sit down in the evening, you know, our body's not designed to sit down this much. We're going to switch the sides now, okay? So I've just turned around for the purpose of the camera, but all you're doing is the same move on the other leg. Okay, just abduct it straight out to the side. Let's start. So yeah, so we're just really not designed to sit this much, and what happens is those glutes just learn to switch off and then they don't do their job, and it causes extra pressure on the back, and it can also lead to knee and hip problems as well. So it's just good to keep them active, keep them firing, keep them nice and stretched and loose too. If you like kind of what you're doing today, I do have a lot more in-depth stretch sessions on the hip pain series on this channel. Feel free to check them out, and of course subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out in terms of producing these videos. I'd really appreciate any support you can. So next up, we're going to go to the kick back. Okay, so we're going to go back to the first leg we trained, same position, hands and knees, and we're just going to kick the leg back straight and then up. Okay, but what I want you doing is straightening the leg as you kick back. This forces the hamstring to relax, and then focus on tensing the bum at the top. So pause, squeeze at the top and physically tense your bum. This is going to get your glute max active. Again, this isn't going to make it ache for days, but it's a case of just activating that glute so it's doing its job. Doing the activation exercises along with the stretches is going to really help support long-term health of that lower back. However, if you are getting pain during any of these movements, in terms of in your lower back, any short stabby pains, please stop. It means you're not doing yourself any good. Apart from that, just kick up, squeeze the bum hard as you can at the top. You may feel it a little bit in your grounded leg too because it's doing some balancing, but that's absolutely fine. Okay, right, let's swap the sides. Glute kickbacks on the other leg. Let's go. Kick up, squeeze at the top. Remember, trying to straighten that leg and then go up, okay? You want that knee finishing slightly above the hip. Okay, that takes our leg into extension and fires the glute max. But again, have that forward squeeze at the top where you physically tense your bum at the top. You may find to start with it, you might actually find it hard to tense your bum. This is perfectly natural and perfectly normal for people whose glutes have kind of gone to sleep a little bit. But as you do this, the more and more you do this routine, you'll find the better able you are to contract that glute, the more active and the more awake that muscle becomes. So next up, you're going to go cross-legged, sit on your bum. Okay, you want your knees nice and low to the floor. And then you're just going to walk your hands out. But again, remember, we're trying to correct the posture here. So if you notice here, it's about lifting the chest, sitting up beautifully tall, then walking your hands out, and then trying to drop your elbows down towards the floor. But you still want to keep that chest as upright as you can. You want to practice perfect posture as often as you can. Especially if you've come to this video for this reason, or the office worker, you know, or person who sits a lot, kind of, you know, if you've come here for that reason. If your knees are really high up in the air and they're not near the floor like mine, feel free to check out that hip stretch series. You might need a bit of extra hip stretching to kind of loosen them up. But tight lower backs can quite often come in conjunction with tight hips. Again, just from those glutes and stuff going to sleep. Okay, next up, what you're going to do, onto your back, you're going to lift one knee up to your chest and then pull it over to the side till that knee goes near or is touching the floor. Hold it down towards the floor and then relax your opposite shoulder back. So you're kind of in this twisted position. This is going to really stretch the outside of the hip through into the lower back. And this is one of the best stretches in terms of stretching off your lower back. In terms of all the people who walk through my door, this is the one, this is the stretch that gets people the best. It gets their back to ease off. That cross-legged walkout one kind of more stretches the sort of straight up and down muscles of the spine, whereas this one stretches more the twisting muscles of the spine. Also, you get a bit of a stretch in the straight up and down muscles on that child's pose at the start. So we're going to do 8 moves. Okay, because we need to stretch off the front of the leg next, because this is quite a deep stretch. We're going to stay in this position, so whichever way your knee is facing, you're going to roll over to that side completely now. Grab your foot, bring your heel right up to your bum, and stretch the front of the leg now. We're just going to do 30 seconds, or 25 seconds on the quad stretch, before switching over to the other side of the lower back. We're going to be doing 8 moves today, so we'll have 7.5 moves in that case. So that's how long the routine will be. You can just do it once through, or if you've got a little bit more time, do it twice through, and you're going to really feel the benefit. But again, this is something that we won't be able to fix immediately. Okay, one knee up to the chest, hug it right in, then pull it over to the side and down to the floor. Hold it down towards the floor, and then relax the opposite shoulder back. So again, this is going to be especially if you know you are sitting down for 8 to 14 hours a day, you know, it's going to take a while to correct that. It's not going to be a magical fix in one session, so I would recommend sticking with this routine. Check in, follow the video, or check out some other back and hip stretch routines. I've got different length ones on the channel. You know, if you come home and your husband or wife's away for the night, and you've got a bit of extra time, there's some longer ones on there, you know, around that kind of 30-minute mark. But then also, if you're really busy with kids and stuff, there's also ones that are kind of 5 to 10 minutes long as well. Apart from that, just hold this stretch, keep going through. Doing one round on this side, and then we're going to hit that quad stretch, and then we're going to go back through again. So heel right up to the bum, try and get that hip in line with the knee. So you want to try and push your trouser pocket forward. If your knee is in front of your hip as you're doing this stretch and your heel isn't on your bum, it means you're very tight through those quads, okay? The end goal is to get them in a nice line. Right, round number 2, we're going to go into the child's pose. So if you're leaving us there, that's fine, but if you want to stick around for round 2, go for it. Child's pose, hands up high, feet together, knees apart, sink back towards your ankles. Big stretch, chest opening stretch, lower back stretch and hip stretch, all in one on this one, and just keep it going, just sink into it, just relax. So this second round I'm going to give you a bit less info, gave you quite a lot of information on that first round. I'm going to kind of leave it now and just allow you to kind of sink into each stretch. Next up, the glute activation, hands and knees. Again, you can add a band just above the knees if you want to make this a bit tougher. Those bands are very cheap, and you're just going to abduct the leg straight out to the side for our hydrants. Staying on the same leg, don't let the leg touch the floor again, kind of keep it in the air, keep it moving, keep the muscle working, and just give it a little blast. And that's the key to getting things nice and loose, is 1, getting them moving through their kind of full range of motion, and then secondly, having a nice big stretch of them. That's the way to kind of loosen them off and reactivate them. Okay, so just switch round to the other side now, hands and knees again, and just abduct that leg straight out to the side again. Again, feeling those glute med and min muscles, but then also on the grounded leg will be working too at the same time, especially if you add that band to it. And you can pick those bands up pretty cheaply off Amazon for about £5–10, and really adds to the workout, especially as you get more and more used to this. Apart from that, just keep going. Okay, to the kickbacks now, where we kick the leg back straight and then up. Okay, kind of 2-stage move, pause squeeze at the top and flex the glute at the top. So kick that leg straight back and then have that knee finishing just slightly above the hip and squeeze the bum hard as you can at the top. Again, if you're struggling to squeeze that bum, that's absolutely fine. It will come in time the more you kind of get that muscle more active and more awake. And just keep it going. Okay, to the other leg now. Glute kickbacks again. Get off the wrists if you want, have a little break. This does work from the forearms if your wrists are a little sore. It's absolutely fine. So kick back, up and straighten the leg. Knee finishing slightly above the hip if you can. I could actually be finishing a little higher. But most important thing is you pause, squeeze the glute at the top, which is what I was doing. Apart from that, just keep it going. Next up, the hips and lower back stretch. Okay, so cross the legs, get them right underneath you, get the knees nice and low to the floor. Chest up tall before you do this stretch, like that. Then walk the hands out and then drop your elbows down towards the floor. You should feel a nice stretch around your SI joint where your spine meets your pelvis, stretching every muscle that attaches to the base of the spine. But also getting a nice little stretch on the muscles either side of the spine, kind of either side of the spine on this stretch too. And just slowly over the time, try and sink lower and lower and relax into it. Try and push those knees down too. And again, if you want a bit more lower back stretching or a bit more hip stretching, if you feel like your hips are really tight holding you back on this stretch, check out the hip pain series, or if you need a bit more on the lower back, check out the lower back pain series. Now, knee up to the chest on your back, pull one knee over and down towards the floor, hold it down towards the floor, get some tension, and then relax the opposite shoulder back so you get a nice twist through the torso, stretching the outside of the hip and into the lower back, into the twisting muscles of the lower back. This is the best lower back stretch out there in my opinion, in terms of how much it's helped my clients. And just relax into it. Okay, now facing the same way still, the same way that your knee is pointing, your bent knee is pointing, you're going to roll completely onto that side. And you're going to go heel to bum, push the hip forward for your quad stretch. Just a quick 25 seconds, not quite as long as the other ones. However, in some of my other hip and back pain routines on the other playlists on the channel, we do a little bit more stretching for kind of the front of the leg and the hip flexors and stuff. And you realise how much they can contribute to a tight lower back. So if you do feel like this is a really tight one for you, check those videos out. And you can ease them off a little bit better. Okay, now lift one knee up towards the chest, lift the other knee up towards the chest, and then pull it over. And just a bit of pressure down towards the floor. Get some good tension on the stretch and relax the opposite shoulder back. And so you get a nice twist again. Again, really stretching that lower back and really just relax and sink into it. Almost there now, just one more stretch to go and we'll call it a day there. But this will be a really good routine to kind of get into a habit of doing in terms of switching that lower back pain off for good. Whilst your lower back pain is bad, hit it more often, but once it's kind of gone, still try and kind of keep it going kind of 1 to 3 times a week just to keep on top of it and prevent it from coming back. That's as long as you're feeling better after this stretch routine. Okay, the next day. Okay, stay facing that same way. Grab the heel up to your bum, push that hip forward, pull the knee back. So if you were to look down at your knee in this position, the knee shouldn't be in front of the hip. And the heel should be touching the bum. If you can't get it there, you need to work on this muscle. And again, this is kind of why I'm sort of doing this YouTube series and everything, is one, to provide a better service to my clients. So I'm not just sending them away with stretches to do, they've got something to follow and hopefully kind of switch off their pain forever. But also if I can reach anyone else out there and get rid of their pain, that's a bonus too. If you are enjoying this series or any of the other videos, please subscribe to the channel, it's free. Like, comment, share as well. Any support would be hugely appreciated. And hopefully see you next time.